And in these COVID times, businesses are changing so much. The information up to date in a minute and really good comprehensive information is just so important. And that is why the next speaker from Phocas, Mr. Craig Medlin, is going to blow you away with what Phocas can do. Over to you, Craig.
In today's session, exactly what Grant mentioned. We're going to talk about insights and the data and what it actually all means. We have so much data in our systems in Advanced, and sometimes, excuse me, making use of that data, it can be a real challenge, especially with different people in the organization that may have different skill sets in terms of how confident they can be with data. So today we're going to have a look at how Phocas takes an approach to data analytics and reporting, and give you some insights into just how a tool like Phocas can help you run your business. And we're going to do it a little different than just a bit of a show and tell type of demonstration. We're actually going to do it in the theme of in the day of a life. In this case, in the day in the life of a finance manager. So we're going to jump actually into the software and show you around. I don't want to have too many slides, but what Phocas is really about is providing that data, like I mentioned. So some of the common questions that you might use Phocas to answer might be transparency of data. Now, when you make data transparent or provide people with access to data, there is usually a governance or security requirement, that comes around with that as well. So Phocas allows us to really govern the data, and not just data in advance. Phocas can actually pull data from anywhere in your business. So if you've got external data that you need to bring in, maybe there's a division of your business that hasn't migrated to Advanced yet, and you need to bring that data across. We really don't mind where your data comes from, but being able to actually govern that data regardless of where it originates from is very, very important. So we'll show you how we might tackle some of that. We might also want to help in the day of a life, help people understand credits and where credits are coming from, and more importantly, why it's such a cost to our business. Where is it actually coming from? We also are going to touch a little bit into our budgeting and forecasting, and actually have a quick look at some scenario-based analysis on, if we increase our sales headcount, what's actually going to be the impact on sales, not just from a cost perspective, but from a GP or from a revenue perspective. How is that actually going to work? And time permitting, I'd also like to touch on rebates, because a lot of our customers do have rebates. They've got rebates as a way of incentivizing customers or being incentivized by suppliers. And sometimes being able to actually use that data, not just calculate it, but even use that data to actually provide insights. Do these rebates actually benefit my business or not? What is the margin effect on our bottom line? So we'll hopefully get some time to jump into that as well. All right, I'm just going to jump into Phocas. So for those that haven't seen Phocas before, Phocas is a cloud-based BI tool. So very much like Advanced, there's no requirement to have any special software on your machine. It is mobile friendly, so it will work on any internet-enabled device, meaning that use it anywhere. If you've got reps on the road or you've got people working at home, it's a platform that can be used by anybody. It can also be used by people that maybe are not MYOB Advanced users, so it can actually be shared with people potentially even outside of your organization. If you want to give key customers access or key suppliers access to data, it's something you can use the Phocas platform to do. Now, the first point in my slides really was around looking at providing more visibility to the branches. And a great way of doing that might be actually using a dashboard where we can still govern the data, but make sure that people only see the data relevant to them. So we can see a P&L structure, and you might have the P&L set as it is in Advanced, Phocas also allows you to set up multiple P&Ls. So if you need to have a P&L statement that is more reflective of how your board wishes to look at data versus how branches need to look at the data and what calculations we present to them, these are things that we can do. And we can put really anything we want on here. We can look at our statements, but we can also look at the data a little bit differently. And we might want to actually look at things like, well, how's the branches actually tracking against budget? So if we want to let them know a couple of key KPIs on what the key areas of concern are, or where the expenses are actually being all driven from, so we can actually, and even filtering these down so they only see the data relevant to them. It really allows us to have a concise view of what's going on in the business. And all of these widgets actually allow you to drill through them. And instead of just drilling through straight into the transactional data and just looking at a whole bunch of transactions, we can actually drill through and actually do some actual analysis. So Phocas has this really, really powerful analysis grid that allows us to come in and ask more questions. So for example, if we're looking at this particular view and we wanted to see our operating expenses, we can see that. We can see where there might be some variations, why bank charges are up so high, or why our IT computer costs are so high. So we can look at the data in the current period. We can look at it for the year to date. We can change how much data we're looking at. So we don't have to have the daily report, the weekly report, the monthly report. You can simply change these dates as you see fit. And when you do want to know more, maybe I'd be rather concerned about my marketing costs being so high, I can actually drill straight down into the transactional data if need be. Keeping in mind the user does not have to be an advanced user. You can also limit the ability to drill down. So if people are not allowed to actually drill down to this level, you can control that very, very quickly and easily. So nice and easy way of being able to look at our data. If I come back to my dashboard, hopefully what you're seeing as we're going through this is that really simple ability to just ask questions. We don't need to be a technical user. This is completely read only, so users can't break anything, delete anything, or mess anything up. So if you do have users at different skill set levels that need access to data and you want to control that experience, Phocas can really help you do that. But if we needed to do some analysis, maybe not just on the financials, but we did actually want to do some analysis on maybe where the credits are coming from in my business, we can actually absolutely do that. So, and that might not necessarily be financial data. We may want to actually do some analysis looking at maybe some more operational data. So Phocas doesn't have to just look at the financials or the GL. If you're a sales-driven organization, you have suppliers, whatever data you want to bring in, you can actually use Phocas to pull data from different parts of your business. What I'm looking at here is some sales data, and in particular, I'm concentrating on credits. Now, just like when I was in the financial solution earlier, I've got a list of buttons here that allow me to move around and ask questions. So just seeing that whole number for the current month is one thing, but is there a type of product that is making up a lot of those credits? So we can move around and ask questions of our data. So in this case, I can see most of my credits sit in illumination products. So I can drill into that and I can understand maybe more of, okay, those problems with illuminations, is it a type of customer that we're experiencing these problems? So we can really follow a train of thought in data without needing to just look at the transactional data. We can actually see, is it a rep or something of that nature that's driving these particular problems? So we have plenty of visibility and ability really just ask questions and not just look at the current month, but maybe we need to look at the last 12 months. Has this problem persisted by rep? Is there somebody that really stands out? How lumpy are they? We can just continually ask questions based on what we're seeing. If we don't want to just look at it in data form and we wish to turn something like this into maybe a chart, we can do that. So we can see where most of the credits are actually coming from. So that's looking at some financials and looking at maybe how we can help people in our organization ask more questions of data. But let's maybe move into something that often finance is tasked with, and that's often looking at budgeting. And budgeting can be a real challenge for a lot of businesses. I've heard it referred to as budget hell more than once, where it's such a laborious task for an organization to take on, to not only get the data in, but actually also control who's actually involved in that budget process. So Phocas can actually aid in this space. Now, we're not going to be able to go through everything that we might be using this tool for. We are going to just concentrate on the scenario of looking at our sales or our revenue and our gross profit. And in this particular case, what the impact on having new starters or new sales staff coming in. So if we're budgeting for new staff to come in, we actually have an integrated headcount driver that allows us to not only see our existing staff and which team they belong to and their salaries and bonuses and even things like any adjustments we might be making to their salary or benefits that they might be enrolled in. So we can see the overall cost for our employees. But we might also want to have some new starters, and we might be knowing that we've got budgets to have some new starters, but we're still toying with when we want them to start. So we can actually factor in not only the cost of them coming on board, but what maybe the revenue result might actually be. So we can have our new starters coming in, and we can actually have it affecting our budget. So we can actually have it affecting our revenue. In this case, I'm affecting the revenue of my head office account. I can actually see that I'm planning on some staff starting in November in this particular branch, and we can see that the cost is actually being adjusted based on average sales and that new head count. But we can also factor in the wage cost as well. We can actually see the wage cost jumping to factor that in as well. So as we move people around, we can actually have these costs being adjusted accordingly, depending on what we're looking to see. So there's quite a lot we can use this tool for. You can publish it back into your analytics, so you're able to not just look at it in this form, but actually perform deep dive analytics into how you're tracking against the budget and being able to move through as you see fit. Now, it looks like we will have enough time just to touch on something that a lot of businesses have or are sometimes even looking to introduce, and that can be rebates. Rebates often are a bit of a challenge for a lot of businesses. They're a challenge to build, they're a challenge to manage on an ongoing basis. So Phocas actually has a rebates calculation tool that can fit into this as well. This is really more just looking at the output of that for the purpose of understanding as a finance team what's actually all the margins, or sorry, all the rebates that the sales team come up with and they give to customers. How does that actually affect our bottom line? And that's something you can see here. So we can see a bit of an overview, how much we might have to pay for a given period, maybe this month or a quarter, year to date. We can also see before we paid rebates, sorry, what was our margin? And also what's after we pay the rebates, where do we actually land? Now we can filter these down by selecting different rebate rules and actually doing a bit more of a deep dive into those particular rebates. Or if I actually wanted to, even before I do that, just see what it looks like from a customer perspective. Where do we maybe have some highlights of margin being at an acceptable level and then dropping maybe a bit lower than we would hope? So we can once again drill through, do some more deep dive analysis on this. And if we're not just doing rebates by customer, but we're also doing rebates by a product group or by a supplier, your imagination really becomes the limit with this. So that's about my time. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And Grant, I'll hand back to you.